Welcome to the live stream. Take this time to connect with our amazing community, ask questions, share your stories, join in on the conversation. We're here to support each other on this journey. Use super chats to highlight important questions or comments. We're so glad you're here and can't wait to hear from you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Keto Crusade. I'm Dustin. We got Chris and Victor. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
I am doing absolutely fantabulous. How is everybody else here? How are you guys?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm all jacked up from that intro. Dustin did a great job on that intro, man.
That's right.
I was like, you all jacked up on Mountain Dew chip? Oh my goodness, I'm so glad to be here.
Yep.
It's going to be a good time tonight.
Indeed it will be. So let's go ahead and get this kicked off. I've got a little bit of stuff here for us all. Let's go ahead and say, we've all seen it. One group says that their way is the only way. The other group says theirs is better. But the real enemy isn't each other. It's the system that sold us the lies about health in the first place.
Absolutely. I think it's easy to get caught up in the my diet is better than yours mindset. But I think if we're being honest, that doesn't really get us anywhere. And I think it just makes this entire movement of keto and carnivore and all the things we're representing look maybe a little unhinged. And we want to fight against that here.
Yeah, and people make like crazy claims about things and just to get clicks and get comments and things like that. If y'all saw my short today, you kind of know some of the stuff I'm talking about. But we're really pushing people away by doing stuff like that. I mean, how do we kind of cut through all this crap and get down to it and all figure out how to move forward together, I guess.
100%. Yeah, I mean, so with this diet divide, how do you think we got here?
This is a really great topic. I'm really excited to talk about this one because I think obviously Victor and Dustin know this, but for any of you guys who are watching, if you have paid attention in my channel and especially in my comment section, you know that this is a near and dear subject to my heart. And that's one of the reasons that I talked to Victor and Dustin about wanting to do this Keto Crusade thing, because we all come from different places in this sort of diet world of the low carb spectrum, and we all have our different tips and tricks, but in general we all have the same outlook on this, and so we're trying to work together. And I think that we got to the point where there's this big divide amongst different groups that is exactly what we're battling against, because I think there's a real human tendency to think, well, if it works for me this way, it's got to work for everybody that way. It's a psychological validation we want to feel. And I think that has fueled this. I also think there are influencers who saw opportunity to make a lot of money by doing really wild and crazy things online. And I think sometimes there's nothing wrong with maybe doing some of that and, eating butter, like doing a butter fast for a whole week. Like if you want to try that and see if it makes you feel good, okay, fine. Sardine challenges, egg fasts, like there's all these different things that have been used. And I think it's really cool for us to all do an N=1 experiment. But because you start putting social media and the internet all together with these ideas, people find some success or they find inspiration from someone who's doing something like this, and it is very easy to buy in to this one person's way of doing it is the way, and they start to get a celebrity status, and they obviously if they have really great results, we start to buy into it. And I think it becomes a bit of its own animal where things can get out of control. And I think what we're experiencing is there's a little bit of this divide that exists in the various factions of the community because everyone kind of picks who the person is they relate to or what is the thing that seems to work best for them. And because of that sense of I want some validation that the way I do this is the right way of doing it, well, I have to tell everyone else it's the right way. And, Dr. Barry talks about like, I don't need you to become preachers about keto and carnivore. Just go out and teach your friends and family by setting the example. And when they're asking you how you're doing it, give them the information and let people do, as Nisha would say, the N=1 experiment that she's doing for her Nisha diet, or, whoever, whatever. Do your N=1 experiment for your diet, the Victor diet, the Dustin diet, the Chris Cooking Nashville diet, whatever. Do your experiments and understand what your body is responding to. And there may be an overarching spectrum that scientifically is great for all human beings. But within that, there is some flexibility and some subtlety in figuring out how do you best like this? What works best for you? What tastes good to you? What makes you feel good? And I think somewhere along the way, because of the shock value and the pizzazz of social media and influencers that are doing shock things so they can get clicks and they can make money, and nothing against those social media influencers that do that. We're all trying to make a living and make this sustainable. And if you can get 100,000 views on a video in 2 days because you ate 12 sticks of butter, I mean, good for you. Like there's nothing that I have against someone who is doing what it takes to stabilize what they're doing online. So no hate to any of the influencers out there who are working to spread this message. But I think sometimes the shock value stuff has been so widespread, it has started to replace but what is it daily looking like, common sense, what we're actually doing to make this a sustainable thing that reaches the entire world and helps lots of people everywhere on all different diverse backgrounds and different approaches to a proper human diet do this in a sustainable way. We've gotten so hyper fixated on the shocking things or the pushing it to extremes, or how hard can you go? How carnivore can you be? How many carbs can you pretend to squeeze into your keto diet? Like on both ends of the spectrum, how far can we push the bounds and how crazy can we go with it? Because it's entertaining. And we live in a world where entertainment oftentimes is prioritized over truth and over what is legitimately going to work for people. And real people need real answers and real help. And it takes time and patience to get there. And that shock value stuff is just, it's entertainment. It might serve to bring a really cool point to something, I think. Like you can do it and then use it as a way to draw people in. So you can say, okay, that's crazy, but here's why it's okay that I did it. And here's the point I'm actually trying to make for you. Like I did a video where I tried to eat 30 eggs in a single sitting because it was the same size bowl that I used to fill with cereal and milk. And after eating dinner, I would binge on like half to 3/4 of a family-sized box of sugary cereal filled with milk. And I would eat this whole thing with no problem. I made 30 eggs and it didn't even totally fill the bowl. And I got about a little over halfway through. I mean, so I was able to get about 14, 15, 16 eggs, somewhere in there by weight. And I was so stuffed, I thought I was going to hurl. And I was like, okay, this is the point that I made with that video. It was kind of a shock video, but the point that I made was that animal foods like eggs, beef, these kinds of things, it's so satiating that even trying to binge, I was not able to. And I'm not recommending anybody else try that. I did it though to prove a point. And so I did it because I was teaching people something and saying, look at this thing. Let me show you what I'm going through. The shock value was to get attention so that I could then get across an important message. And I think sometimes there's a divide that is being created because there's shock value intensely here, there's shock value intensely there, but we're not connecting the overall message and we're not supporting each other as a community trying to figure out, okay, shock value aside, maybe the shock value is drawing people in, it's entertaining and it gets us to listen, but what's the point? And what's the real life common sense way everyone is going to understand this on a daily basis? And I think that's the point that's being missed. And then everyone identifies with what they're most attached to. And that turns into this camp versus this camp versus this one versus this one. And now we're all infighting as a community and we're arguing. That's my 2 cents on that. I'd love to know what you guys think about this.
Yeah, man. I agree with you on that. And it's gotten to the point. I mean, you know, when I was doing personal training and stuff way back in the day, there was like Atkins. That was it. You know, now, you know, there's low carb, and then there's, you know, there's Ketovore, which, by the way, I hate that term because the ovore part means one who eats. So it's one who eats keto. So how does Ketovore separate you in any way from regular keto? But that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, but there's so many like just factions, and like, if, you know, if you're carnivore but you're not lion diet, then you're not, you know, that's not right. Or if you're keto but you eat some processed stuff, well, that's not right. That's not keto. You can't, you know, you can't do that. And Chris, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's an individual thing, and that's why one of the comments that I hate the most, that I fight with all the time on my videos, is how many grams of carbs in this? Well, what ingredients are you using? I mean, it varies so much between, if you're watching that close, then you've got to do like Chronometer. You got to do something like Carb Manager. You've got to put your ingredients in, and any recipe that pops up, whether it's mine or anybody else's, because there's a ton of them out there that are not right. But you got to put it in using your actual ingredients so you get accurate results. Because mine's 4 grams of carbs doesn't mean yours might not be 6, because you're using something with slightly more natural sugars in it, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But, you know, there's a lot of the clickbaity stuff, and I put out that short today, which kind of was making fun of that. And you know, I mean, I'm a jokester anyway, but, you know, as a community, you know, if you were curious, so like everybody knows YouTube kind of shows you the stuff that you want to see, or TikTok kind of shows you the stuff you want to see. So if you're interested in keto and you're legitimately interested in it, and then, you know, all of a sudden somebody pops up and they're eating sticks of butter like this, and like, whoa, this is so good. I mean, is that going to make you want to pursue this more? Or you like, you know, I just don't think that's for me. I'm not digging that. I'm not, you know, into eating, you know, 5 pounds of raw steak, or, you know, whatever the case may be, things that get people clicks, but may not necessarily be the best for, you know, what we're trying to do to further this movement to get people healthy. And, you know, it's like, for me, you know, I'm kind of taking a step back now because I've come out with all these recipes. But, you know, if you eat my keto macaroni and cheese recipe every single day, I guarantee you're going to lose, you're going to gain weight. You're not going to lose weight if that's your goal. There's just certain, that is a great in its place. You know, maybe once a week you really miss macaroni and cheese, so you're going to do it once a week. It's not something you should do daily. So I'm kind of backing up myself in what I'm doing and trying to go back and kind of lay a foundation of, okay, well, when I started keto back this time, this is going to be what I did. These are the meals that I eat most of the time. And then I'm throwing in the good, you know, I mean, I do a dessert every day, so everybody knows that. But other than that, it's really simple, good, pretty clean stuff, other than when we need convenience, or, you know, when we need certain things for different reasons. But as a general rule, it's, you know, pretty clean. You know, so I'm trying to kind of go back and not be that kind of bad, not bad influence, but, you know, I don't want people thinking they can go and eat that mac and cheese every single day, lose weight, or you can eat a whole pan of the lemon dessert every day and be fine with it. Just because it's keto doesn't mean you can't gain weight on it. So, you know, I'm kind of looking at this personally myself when we all started talking about it, even though I did come out with that video today, but still, that, you know, I'm going to joke around, but you're not going to see me eating sticks of butter telling you that that's the thing to do. And, you know, what works for other people doesn't necessarily work for everybody, just like Chris said. And it's not going to work for everybody. I mean, I love Chris to death, but there's no way in the world I could do a carnivore diet 100%. My body is not equipped for that. I have to have a few more carbs. I have to have different things. And, you know, anybody that's carnivore, Chris is the best thing out there. I mean, not just because you're a buddy, but I mean, you know, they're not people out there making like the carnivore mashed potato recipes actually taste like mashed potatoes. There's just not people doing that. And I mean, Chris gets a lot of hate just like I do over things like that. Well, you're just not a carnivore then, because, you know, carnivores don't make mashed potatoes. You're no better than a vegan. You know, you get stuff like that. So I'm trying to take a look at myself, even though I love to joke around and stuff. I'm trying to take a step back and kind of, now that my channel has grown a little bit, I want to kind of go back and lay that groundwork for, okay, this is exactly what I did. These are the cases that I use these recipes. And, I make a lot of that stuff every single week, but it's not every single day. So I just think that a lot of the stuff on there is great for clicks, maybe not so great for our community, but what do you think about that, Dustin?
I think I think I'll take a devil's advocate stance here for just a second, and I'll think about we are looking to grow this community. At what point is going for clicks, going for the sensationalism? At what point is that beneficial versus does it hurt us? And I think that's something we have to look at as well. And I used to get upset, and I still do to some degree, with some of the influencers that are kind of mean or nasty, because I'm kind of like, why would you fight back? Why would you say those things? Why would you post that? And I even posted something the other day that I felt bad about. So just a little context. The other day I posted a photo. It was two different women. One woman on the left was a 32-year-old person from, I want to say she was somewhere in Europe somewhere, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But she was 32. She was vegan, and she looked pretty rough. And then I had the lady that's like 82 or 83-year-old carnivore who looks like she might be 58. Doesn't look 83 at all. And and I typically don't kind of get involved in that kind of thing. And I did it. It was kind of one of those, just like, here, let me, oh my goodness, I see this lady that's awful. Look, she's 32. What about that lady who's 83 and looks amazing? And I put that together, but I didn't look any deeper into it than what I had saw on the surface. And the surface didn't tell me the whole story. So the surface was, she's 32-year-old vegan who is a activist. And she's, a vegan activist. She's other kind of activist as well. But one thing we didn't show in that that top side view was the fact that she's been struggling with anorexia for a very long time. And that's not something that I am proud of. That's not something that I want to highlight, because we all have suffered with food to some degree or another. I have been the opposite. I struggled with eating way too much food. And it's not any different than somebody who struggles with not eating any food at all, or binges and purges, or whatever the case is. And it made me truly stop and think, okay, yeah, I can try to spread this message in this way from a top side down, or I can, try to do my best to always take the high road, because what's really going to help us in the long run? What we do here, what we're trying to do here is grow a community, an inclusive community. And I know that inclusivity right now is kind of taking there's with DEI and all that stuff, there's a lot of people that are upset with that term, but at the root of that is inclusivity. And that's what we want. We want to include anybody and everybody who's looking to make themselves better, healthier, more time with their family, more the ability to spend time and be active with their grandkids, whatever the case is. And I think looking at something like that, and looking at the influencers that are kind of nasty on purpose, and I understand that they are trying to garner the engagement, because in the nasty, the even not necessarily the nasty, but even just the the shock and awe factors is more likely to get the clicks and get people in a roundabout way curious about what people are doing. Why are they eating butter? Why are they eating the raw meat? Why is everybody all of a sudden sitting behind a cutting board with a machete eating steaks and eggs? I've questioned that myself. Those cutting boards aren't easy to clean. It's not easier than a plate. I don't know. I just kind of think, I think we have to take a step back. We have to look at the grand scheme of things here, because our goal here, and I think everybody in this chat, is to either make themselves healthy, or they're very interested in the health of others. And I think this is why the title, the talking points and everything that we're going to discuss tonight is very true and very important. And and very, weighs on us. It goes a lot of our discussions behind the scenes, and during the weeks we're not doing these shows, during the, our general discussion typically revolves around this very thing. And, divided we fall, divided we fail, divided we don't succeed. And I saw something earlier today with a couple of influencers where they were kind of going back and forth on Instagram, and one person was saying, and one person was upset at the other one because they figured they thought that they were kind of being disingenuous, and I could kind of see both sides of that. But in the comments, I was saying things, people calling carnivores clownivores, which it kind of makes me chuckle a little bit because it's kind of inventive. But I'm like, that doesn't, those kinds of terms, that doesn't build community. If I'm sitting here calling all the carnivores here clownivores, or people, people who are keto or not carnivore, calling them whatever, I don't even know. I'm sure there's a term, but I'm just not versed in it. But how do we help the most people? And I know that this is a topic and a question that we pose almost every single episode that we do here. How do we help the most people? We think there's 8 billion people on this planet almost. I would say a good half are suffering with, some kind of metabolic disease or syndrome or something. And they don't maybe know what to do. How do we help them? Is everybody going to go carnivore? No. Is everybody going to go keto? No. Is everyone going to go paleo? No. Is everybody going to go vegan? No. There's not a single thing that we're dividing ourselves with that's going to cause the entirety of the population of the earth to do it. You're not going to get everybody to go vegan. You're not going to get everybody to go carnivore. You're not going to get everyone to go keto or ketovore, Victor. I didn't realize that was what that was. I always just assumed that it was like, well, keto, but more carnivore. That's what it sounds like. And I know that's the intention, but it's funny when you break it down with the etymology. But I just kind of wonder, do we all understand what's at stake? We're healthier. We're so far unhealthier than we were 100 years ago that especially in the United States, our life expectancy is going down for the first time in recent history since it started to go up. So we're putting ourselves in a bad spot here. And I just kind of want to know, what do people think? What is it that, I guess the question to the chat is, and in your mind, what's the best way to move forward? What's a good way to get everybody on board? And it's not everyone's got to go ketovore, carnivore. Carnivore's the only way. It's just not gonna work. So, and we can't be myopic, and we can't be. I have a word written down here. I got to go back and look at it up because my brain is like, okay. But the echo chamber effect. We got to make sure we're avoiding that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Dustin. And I think you made a really interesting point. You said, we keep posing the question in all of these Keto Crusade live streams that we're doing of how do we get the whole community on board? How do we help the most people? Like this is a repeating theme. And as soon as you said that, what occurred to me is we keep asking the same question because we're searching for an answer to the same problem. And I think at the whole ground level foundation of what we're trying to do with Keto Crusade, what each of us does on our own channels in our own various ways with our skill sets, what we are trying to do in the community, what we want everyone to jump on board with, the reason we're trying to inspire people in the ways we are, the same problem still exists. There are sick people. There are people who are struggling. They're addicted to foods. They're addicted to sugar. They're overweight. They're metabolically unhealthy. They are just struggling. And a lot of them, because they're just not informed, right? Like it's one thing if sugar and candy and cake and pie and chips and, bread and all this kind of stuff. If that is not ideal food for your body, and why low carb is so good for you, and you know scientifically that all of the stuff that comes in packages is poison that is being sold to you for the profit of a big food or a big pharma reason. If you know all of that and you say, screw it, I'm going to go eat a box of Twinkies anyway because I want to do that, that is your right as a human being to make that choice for yourself. And I think, cool, do what it is that's going to make you happy. Fine. I don't think it's a good choice, but I'm not you, and I'm not living your life. And I was making that choice at one point. And if I decided to do it again, I wouldn't want someone forcing me or just badgering me into doing what it is they think I should do. You know, I heard it said one time, right here is the last 5 inches of freedom. What goes in your mouth is the last free choice you get. When all other freedom is gone, what you do or don't choose to put in your mouth is one of the last freedoms you'll ever have. And so I wouldn't want anybody to try to dictate to me what I am and am not allowed to do. But the problem is we keep coming to the same question because the same problem exists of all of these people are struggling, not because they're just choosing to struggle and whatever, but because so many people don't know the answers we do. And so that then leads us to the second element of the problem. Okay, well, if they don't know the answers and we have the information, great. How do we give them the information? And so, you know, as Dustin was saying, some of that devil's advocate stuff, like, is there a benefit to some shock value? Is there a time when doing things like that gets people who live in a society where entertainment and instant gratification, and I want it on TikTok and I want it on Instagram and I want it right now, and my attention span is 20 seconds long and I'm moving on? Is there a way to break through the digital noise with shock value to grab someone like that? So from a devil's advocate standpoint, I actually think there's maybe a case that can be made for when doing it the right way, it may actually be beneficial. But I think we also then come across the problem of, okay, but if the reason you're doing it is because you're getting 1 million clicks on your video and it's making you wealthy, and now you're going to do whatever it takes to get more and more and more and more and more people paying attention so you can make a bunch of money and you can be successful and you can be famous because social media influencers are the new celebrity, right? If you do all of that because it's self-serving, well, then you've become the exact same thing as big food, big pharma, and big government that we're all talking about being a problem. They're doing things that are not good for other people because it's self-serving to do so. And so it's a weird slippery slope where when you step over a certain line, you are very quickly now serving yourself instead of other people. And the thing that really gets to me at my heart, that tugs at my heartstrings about this, Dustin and I have talked about this, it's very difficult to sit back and watch people who are struggling physically, maybe struggling financially. I mean, like, you know, listen, we're all like dealing with the economy the way that it is right now and all the things that go into that. And we're not here to argue politics. So regardless of how you think we got here, we are in that position where people are struggling. So you see people struggling physically, struggling with their diet, struggling with their self-confidence, struggling with their health and their need for medication, and they're going through surgeries. They don't necessarily have a lot of money. The grocery prices have gone up. The gas prices have gone. Like, people are struggling in so many ways. And then you see someone who is under the guise of helping them making a lot of money off of things that seem to drive more dissension in the community than actually solves any problems for people. And that really bothers me if I see that happening. And I'm not going to call out names because I don't know what people's intentions are. And I'm not here to stir a pot. I'm just saying from the outside, we sit and watch this happen. And it's like, I don't give two craps about what one influencer or another influencer is doing with their life. They're doing their thing. That's their business. I don't care. That's on them. They have to be the ones to go to sleep and live with their decisions at night. So it's none of my business. What matters to me is I see real people who are walking around with pain and difficulty and suffering, and they're on medication, and their skin doesn't look good, and they have bags under their eyes, and they're talking about how they can't give things up, and they're talking about how they're desperate for help, and they're confused. I see in the chat, we'll get to some of these, but I see people saying, I'm brand new to this. I'm trying keto. I'm not sure if it's right for me. I'm confused about this. Like, I'm seeing this stuff pop up. People are confused. They are trying to get answers. And because it gets clicks and it makes money for people, there are people under the guise of, I want to help you, doing crazy things that are muddying the water and making it harder for people to get the basic help they need, the basic information, so they can choose what they want to do for themselves because they don't know what to believe. Like, well, I've literally had people, and I think there was someone in the chat that maybe said this that we'll end up addressing here in a little bit, but I've had people ask me, I don't think I can eat a stick of butter a day. Can I do keto? And it blows my mind that that's the way the message, it's not these people's fault. I'm not blaming the people asking me that question. I'm blaming influencers that are putting out digital information in such a way that it is communicating to people that you somehow that you can't do keto unless you eat a stick of butter a day. When has that ever been something that anyone with real knowledge in this community has ever said? But then I go and I see influencers who are doing clickbaity things and they're getting clicks, whatever. And yeah, they're eating like a stick of butter a day. And again, I know there's people that eat a stick of butter a day and they feel great. In our house, we probably get about a stick of butter a day because I do a lot of butter, a lot of animal fat goes into our coffee. That's what we use instead of cream. I don't have anything against eating a stick of butter a day. But if you have you must beat yourself over the head with a stick of butter until you can figure out how to eat a whole stick of butter in a single sitting, or you're not keto, that message, whether that's the intention or not, is being communicated to people who don't know. And that's the part that I think I find most distressing and concerning as someone who's trying to be just a source of knowledge and a source of tools and a source of reason to the best of my ability for people who are struggling. The number of people that come to me and say, can I do this? Can I do that? Should I do this? Do I have to do that? I'm new to keto. I'm new to carnivore. I'm trying to figure this all out. And the things they say to me, I go, I don't even know where you got the idea that you had to do that in the first place. And so some of this goes back to, Victor mentioned some of the haters that we get of like, this isn't real keto. That's not real carnivore. Why are you using this ingredient? That's stupid. You're still addicted. And it's like, okay, so there's people in the community that are very loud as a minority of people, but they're very loud and they're very dogmatic and they're very willing to go in comment sections. I mean, they'll come after us as influencers. Okay, fine, whatever. We don't pay any attention to that because we get that all day, every day. And we just do what we know is helpful to the most people, trying to make a difference. But they'll go in comment sections and talk to each other. They'll go in comment sections in Facebook groups. They'll go to these other places and they will beat people up. What do you mean you can't eat a stick of butter a day? What's wrong with you? You're not even a real carnivore. Do you know how much fat you're supposed to have? Obviously, you don't know anything. What's wrong with you? And I've seen people go in these groups and ask legitimate questions like, I'm brand new to carnivore. Is it okay if I eat chicken? Now, this is someone who's brand new and sees people sitting there with, as Dustin said, cutting boards and a machete eating ribeye steaks. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like doing that and that's how you do carnivore and you want to share it with people, I think it's super cool. One of the people who's probably best known for that is Dr. Sean Baker. He wants to sit and eat a ribeye steak every day with a machete on a cutting board. I think it's awesome. And he's done a lot for the community. So I have nothing against him doing that. It's like, if you want to do that, that's cool. But there's so many people that have tacked that on to what it means to be a real carnivore. That then, I mean, I can tell you as an influencer, I've gotten the comment of, well, if that ground beef you're eating didn't come from a local grass-fed, grass-finished cow that you bought directly from the farmer, then you're not really a carnivore. You're just one of the other people going to the grocery store causing the problem. And I'm like, I'm struggling so hard to figure out how that's supposed to apply to 99% of the people in the world. I mean, you're talking about like, there are people who are like, I wish I could afford the cheap ground beef at the grocery store. let alone grass-fed, grass-finished, all of this other kind of fancy, as Dr. Barry would say, panda massaged meat. I mean, how are you supposed to imagine getting your life under control and your health under control and changing your life and being there for your family in 25, 30 years when you can't even go to the store and buy the meat that's affordable to you if all that is bologna and hot dogs? You know, Dr. Barry says this all the time. He's like, you can do carnivore on bologna and hot dogs. You can do cheap carnivore. It may not be the most ideal version of carnivore because there might be some trace things and some, you know, chemicals and stuff that comes in there. But he's like, in his words, it's a whole hell of a lot better than you going and eating all of the oats and the rice and the cereals and the breads and the cookies and the cakes and the pies and the candy and everything. And I look at all this and I come from eating, I don't even know because I wasn't calculating it, but I've estimated I was eating anywhere from 200 to 500 grams of carbs a day. Sometimes maybe more. I mean, I was binge eating like 2/3 to 3/4 of a family-sized box of Captain Crunch after I've had dinner. Think about, I mean, and that's not even including the milk. That's not all of the stuff I had for dinner. That's not the soda I was drinking. I mean, think about what I was doing to my body because I just didn't get what was going on. And it's like, and you think it's ridiculous that I have bologna that has 1 gram of carbs per serving because there's a little bit of a binder in there. And I'm like, now I'm not saying that that's good to just go and eat all those binders and chemicals and whatever else. Do the best we can and try to get rid of as much of that as we can. But you're telling me that going from that lifestyle to I'm going to eat the cheap ground beef local grocery store that's on sale because that's what makes this sustainable for me, that somehow I'm not a real carnivore. And that's the dividing lines that I see happening here. And I'm like, okay, as Dustin said, we keep asking the same question because the same problem still exists and people need information. They need to know. And if they choose to go eat that other junk and they have all that information and they just go, I don't care. I don't believe it. I want to eat what I want to eat. That's fine. That's every person's prerogative as a human being to do what they wish to do with their life. But it's sad that people are coming to me saying, I'm searching for an answer. I'm new to keto. I'm thinking about keto. I'm not sure if it's right for me. I don't know if carnivore is right for me. Will it work? Will it not? I'm looking for answers. And the thing they're saying is, I don't know if I can eat a whole stick of butter a day. Do I have to eat chunks of butter like that? Do I have to eat only ribeye? I heard that if it's not grass-fed, grass-finished, that it's just as bad for me as the Twinkies. I mean, these are things that I've been told, quote, in my comment section. Like, I've heard that if the meat's not grass-fed because it's fed maybe corn and soy and all this kind of stuff, that I may as well just go eat boxes of Twinkies and cereal because it's all going to end my life just as quickly. And that blows my mind that that's the way that information is getting to these people. And that's why I'm so passionate about doing what I do. It's why I wrote my free ebook that's on my website. You guys want a free downloadable PDF of here's what keto and carnivore is, a basic outlook. Here's the last 3 to 5 years of information I have gathered, put in a 60-page document top to bottom with some basic beginner recipes. Here's why I do it. Here's the research that says it. And it doesn't go super in depth into all those subjects, but it touches on all of them and then directs you to where you can go to actually find good information. Common sense, middle of the road. Here's how you get started. Don't beat yourself up. Don't be dogmatic about it. That free ebook is there for you guys because that is the information people need. I want you to download that ebook. I want you to share it with everyone you know. And anyone who says, I'm thinking about keto or carnivore, what should I do? You should go read this guy's ebook. That'll give you a basic overview. You should subscribe to all 3 of these channels that are on this Keto Crusade live stream right here. You need to go be involved with all of their channels, be in their comment section, meet the community, talk to these 3 guys. I've got a private community that I run, and Victor and Dustin are also a part of that. If you need additional support, come be a part of that community. Let us support you. Let us help you. Let us give you information. And when we don't have the answer, I guarantee between the 3 of us, one of us, if not all 3 of us, knows someone who is an expert who does have that answer because all 3 of us have searched for answers. So I have a medical question. Dr. Berry. I want to know about training as a carnivore. Go look at Dr. Baker. I'm trying to get pregnant. Go talk to Dr. Kiltz. I'm looking for women's hormone issues. Great, Dr. Elizabeth Bright. I can direct you to all of these different people who know way more than I do, that are way smarter about that stuff than me. But because we've been through it and we all stick together, we have this information and we want to help every single one of you. And especially if you're like, I'm confused and I don't know what to do, we will cut through the horse crap and we will tell you straight exactly why we do what we do. And then you get to make the decision of, I'm going to try this or I'm going to try that. This is maybe going to work for me. Maybe this will work. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'm going to try eating a stick of butter a day. Maybe I'll feel better doing it. I'm going to eat no more than a couple of tablespoons of butter a day. I feel better with less fat. I feel better with more fat. I'm going to include chicken. I'm not going to include chicken. I'm a lawyer. I have all the money that I would need to eat grass-fed, grass-finished, and that's really important to me. So I'm going to eat ribeyes every day and buy them from a local farmer and eat the highest quality beef I can possibly find. Great. Hey, I'm barely staying off of government aid for my food right now, trying to work 3 jobs, and I've got kids at home. I'm going to get the cheapest ground beef and chicken legs and chicken thighs and whatever it is at the store, and I'm going to buy some low-carb veggies, and I'm just going to try to change the life of my family for as little money as it can possibly cost me because I have very little extra to spare. All of that is perfectly okay, and we love every single one of those people here. And if you're a vegan and you think all of this is crazy, but you're polite, we love you too. Just don't come in the comments and be a jerk. That's the only thing we ask. But you can have any outlook on any of this because we just want to help people and put out good information that's not about getting the clicks, but is about truly changing people's lives, like our lives have all 3 been changed. I've been preaching. I'm going to shut up now. But that is what, when Dustin said that, that's immediately what started ringing in my mind is this is still the same question because it's still the same problem. And all 3 of us are doing everything we know how to try to help people solve it because we care about people having real hope.
That was awesome, Chris. Yeah. And for sure, when you came out with that ebook, that was awesome because that's something that, like I said, I've been trying to go back on my channel and make some videos about how to start keto. That ebook is awesome. We all appreciate you doing that for the whole community for sure. You should have put in there that it's supposed to be all grass-fed meat, but you might have missed that. But no, seriously, I mean, this is not supposed to be some kind of elitist thing. There's, if you're not buying, $29.99 a pound, ribeyes that have been dry aged and, whatever. I mean, you do the best you can, just like Chris said. I mean, you can do keto super cheap. And it reminds me, got somebody that watches my channel. I won't call any names, but she may be in here right now, but she is on government assistance. And I came out with a recipe yesterday, the chaffle video. And she's like, hey, I had to substitute this and this because this is all I could get, but it worked great. And that's what it's all about. You do the best you can do. If you can afford to buy, free range chicken instead of regular chicken, then do it. But if you can't, then don't. Egg prices everywhere have gone through the roof. Apparently, ours actually started to come back down, which a lot of people said that across the country it's not that the case. But we've got a ton of egg producers down here in the Carolinas, so I think that's helping us a lot. But I mean, somebody said today California is like, $10 for a dozen eggs. We were up to 7 and some change, 8 and some change on some better eggs, which are now down to like $5.50, which is still a little higher than they were. But that seems to be coming down. But eggs comparatively, I mean, when you can get, I would say the average person, I know, we all may be able to eat a little bit more, or I can anyway, but I would say for most people, 3-4 eggs, I mean, you got a pretty good meal. So you're talking about, even if they're $10 a dozen, I mean, you're talking about a meal for $3. I mean, is that really that unaffordable? I mean, you'll go to McDonald's and, you can't, if you get the cheap beef patties, which I get a lot if I'm on the road, I mean, 3 of those are like $8. And, to me, the eggs are a better deal, nutrient dense. I mean, it's a great keto food. But there's just so many factions coming out of all these little parts of keto and low carb. And I mean, it's really as simple as going back to what people were eating 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago. The stuff that's come out in the last 100 years is not recognizable as food if there's, more than one or two ingredients on there. And I eat some processed stuff. I mean, people will say that almond flour is processed. Okay, well, it is processed, but I could duplicate that process in my kitchen. I can take some almonds, I can blanch them, dry them, I can pulverize them if I want to make my own flour. I'm not going to because I can buy it so cheap. But there's a difference in like processed and processed with 50 different ingredients. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand on my channel, starting off keto. Shop around the outside of the store, stick to meats, non-starchy vegetables, even strawberries, blueberries, things like that, which, these guys may disagree on, but I think in moderation, some berries, and moderation is the key. You got to be able to control your portions. Could I eat a whole pan of that lemon dessert at one time? Absolutely. Do I? No, I cut it, I freeze it. And then that way, when I want one, I pull it out. And, once I'm done with it, if I think, oh, well, I want some more, then I got to wait. I got to go pull one more out, let it thaw. I have to do that for my own self-control because I don't have much. So, just finding out, knowing yourself, knowing little tricks like that of what you have to do, to make it work for you. And at its essence, I mean, all this, if everybody in the world would just cut down on the amount of carbs they were eating by 25%, the world would be a completely different place. If you could do 50% and 75%, and like most of us, 90 to 95%, I mean, the world would be, well, a great place, obviously, but, health would be so much better. And I know Chris mentioned that, we're at an all, our life expectancy now has gone down from where it was. I think a big part of that is that, the pharmaceutical drugs were getting better and better and better. And then the food started getting worse and worse and worse and more addictive. And now we've kind of crossed the point where the food is worse for us now than what the medicines can take care of treating the symptoms for. Most of these medicines are not going to, and not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on YouTube. But I think we're at the point now where the symptoms, as bad as the food is, I mean, when you've got bacon that is sugar cured and now we want to make it taste like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, there's a problem. When you took a great food like ice cream, and well, ice cream is not good enough, we got to throw some strawberry cheesecake in there, give it a caramel swirl, put some fudge chips in there, put spread it with chocolate on top, and then whipped cream. That it's getting worse and worse and worse, and the medicines are only going to mask the symptoms of some of this stuff so much. Ask any diabetic. I mean, I'm really kind of pushing towards that community right now. I'm trying to find out as much as I can about diabetes because I'm not diabetic and things don't affect me the way that they affect diabetics. But I want to feel good about if I recommend something. Like one of them that I'm looking for answers for is lupin flour. So we did a pasta that's made with lupin flour and xanthan gum. Did nothing to my blood sugar. I tested it an hour after, 2 hours after, and nothing. I mean, normal, but not a spike, but normal blood sugar. And I don't have like a CGM or anything. Maybe I should get one and just see what happens. But I'm really interested in talking to type 2 diabetics and even type 1 to see what kind of effect that has. And I think we're all trying to do really good work. Each one of us has our own kind of, specialty. But we're all here for the same purpose. And the same purpose is people getting healthy, no matter how you do it. If you can just cut down the amount of carbs you're eating, be low carb, and you're eating, 50, 60 grams of carbs a day, and that works for you, that is fantastic. If you can do dirty, lazy keto, and eating all processed stuff, and that works for you, great. But with these factions coming in and everybody's saying, well, if you don't eat meat and salt, you're not a carnivore. Let's go to the next one. Well, if you're ketovore, you're not eating enough meat. So maybe you should go carnivore. Maybe you should be, maybe you're not any of these things because, this particular thing isn't keto. I mean, it's, I think that a lot of the divide has come with that, with people picking, like, some people may like to watch me. I got a comment today that, I really like your videos, but I wish you'd talk less and cut down on some of the antics. I'm like, well, you really don't like my videos at all. And so if you know me, that's my videos. But the problem with people picking specific things is that it just kind of pigeonholes you. And if you get into that one way of thinking, well, this has got to work for everybody. It's not going to work for everybody. You are an individual person. Everybody in the world is different. One thing's going to work for me differently than it works for you. And so we're just trying to all work and uncover it, and just help as many people as possible with our specific ways of doing things. So sorry, Dustin, I've been rambling too.
That's okay. I mean, I'm just letting you, I mean, that's what we're here to just kind of get everything out. I was kind of wondering, like, my thing, just to kind of go back and touch under one of the things that that Chris was talking about was, the butter eating on videos. I've always kind of seen that, and I've always been like, it always reminded me of when I was a kid. David Letterman did a thing where he was in the grocery store and just picked up a stick of butter, was eating it just for the shock value of eating a stick of butter, because butter is is not heart healthy, and he's going to eat butter and he's going to laugh about it. And now we're kind of going back into that. But my question is it genuine? Do they truly eat a stick of butter a day? If that's what they're doing, then I mean, really, how do they tell you that? Like, because they will say, you could be like me and you can eat this stick of butter. And I mean, if that's truly what you're doing, I mean, I can't hate you for that. It is shocking, but it's not something that I'm going to do. I have never once in my 9 years of this lifestyle just snacked on a stick of butter. Now, I have been fasting before and took like a little pat of butter and just put it in my mouth. I wouldn't say that's snacking on butter necessarily, but it was like, okay, I just need a little bit of fat. And I was in the middle of a fast, and I'm like, maybe just a little bit of this is going to be okay. It was still weird, and I just kind of wonder, like, how genuine is it? Are you making the content, and are you disingenuous with your content? Are you disingenuous with your arguments? I think, it's just, I think, I get frustrated, and it was one thing that I did talk about today for anybody that was in my Sunday live this morning. We were talking about how the prices are high. We're talking about how much things cost and how much there's the cheap way to go. There's a more expensive way to go. And I kind of wonder, we have this mindset that if you're not spending enough money on your food, are you even eating healthy enough? And I kind of wonder, but where's the line? Where's the diminishing return? Where does that start? I mean, yeah, you can get $3, $2, $3 ground beef, or you can buy the $10, $15 ground beef. But how much better for you is it? And I think we kind of lose sight of that a little bit as well. We just automatically assume that the more you spend, the healthier you're going to be. And I don't believe that that's the case at all. I think that there are probably some things that you can invest more money in, and you're going to see some really good returns. And I think there's a lot of things out there that it doesn't matter how much you spend, you're not going to get any better than the $3 a pound stuff. But I mean, that's where your mileage may vary. And I know that there's prices are different across the board. Our prices haven't really started to come down, but we're able to kind of find eggs to a degree. I just bought some eggs at Costco the other day, and I got organic brown eggs, which just mean they came from brown chickens. But they were like $4 something a dozen, which is ridiculous. For for even for the organic eggs, they used to be $2 a dozen or whatever, and we used to buy the 5 dozen egg box from Walmart for $3.12, and now that's $27. So, at what point is throwing money at the problem not helping you anymore? And this all came up because I had questions about heavy cream, which I won't go into today, but I mean, it did kind of start there, but then my one of the things that I've been thinking about for a long time since doing this, and as people come out and they say, you should avoid the chicken, the rotisserie chicken from Costco and make it yourself. And well, I get it. But if I can get a cooked chicken for $5 or 2 uncooked chickens for $20, then I got to cook it myself and I've got to use my own electricity or gas or whatever it is and cook it in my own time. Where's the return? Where's the diminishing returns there? So I think that's the thing that we should take and look into ourselves and the community as a whole. I kind of wonder, where everybody else kind of stands on that. I know that most people have the idea that investing in your health is better than spending it on pharmaceuticals. And I understand that 100%. And I can stand behind that ideology. I can stand behind that. We are investing in ourselves by eating ground beef and eggs and vegetables and all these things. And we're not eating Kraft mac and cheese and getting the dollar a loaf bread and all that stuff. I get that. But at what point are we spending too much money on our own lifestyle by just throwing money at it?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there are times where your dollar turns into a significant health impact. And those are the kinds of changes we want to promote to anyone and everyone. And there are times where the dollar might have maybe a health impact, but that depends on the person. And those are the things we say, okay, well, maybe that's something you need to figure out for yourself and what's important to you and your own diet. And then there's places where I think the dollar is basically just about making you feel good. I don't really think it's going to probably make a whole lot of an impact, if any impact at all. And, if it makes you feel good, do that, then cool. But there needs to be a lot more transparency, I think, in those kinds of things for people to make really informed decisions. And I think there's so much information that is quite honestly just made up. There are too many people that just get a kick out of going online and saying things that they've heard someone else say that they haven't done any research for. And in fact, I saw in the chat, there is a person, I believe their handle is OG Granny. I think it's coming from my channel. And they were talking about being confused about keto and all this kind of stuff. But one that popped up that they made a comment, I don't know where it is now, but it popped up. I saw it. It says, yeah, that's the person right there, OG Granny. And so one of their later comments, they said, I heard if you eat too much protein, it turns into sugar. And I have heard this comment from a number of people online because there is a process. Now, we are not doctors. I am not giving you medical advice. I am telling you what I have heard other doctors explain scientifically. There is a process called gluconeogenesis. And when your body needs glucose, because there are things in your body that you have to have glucose for. When your body needs glucose and you don't have any glucose, your body can take protein and go through a process called gluconeogenesis, and it can actually create its own glucose, which is why if you choose to do a zero carb carnivore thing, you're going to get trace amounts of glucose because it exists even in steak. So anyone who says that's not zero carb, well, technically nothing is zero carb because there's trace carbs in literally everything on earth, including meat. You can eat just meat and it is trace. I mean, it's minute microscopic amounts, but there is trace amounts of glucose because what was running through that animal's body, some glucose. So there is glucose in everything. But if your body needs glucose, it can make its own glucose. But the problem, and this is, and I see OG Granny says, yes, that's what I was talking about. So gluconeogenesis is not something you can make your body do by overeating protein. And this is where like someone hears something and then they parrot something else. They draw a conclusion and they basically jump the Grand Canyon to get from one point to another. They Evel Knievel this, right? They just go from one thing to another. They get to the idea that somehow you can eat enough protein. If you just shove enough beef in your mouth, you can make your body create a bunch of glucose and it's going to spike your blood sugar and cause all of this kind of stuff. And you're going to have the glycation of cells and you're going to do damage to your body metabolically. And you're going to like get blood sugar spikes because I ate too much protein. According to every doctor I've heard talk about this who knows what they're talking about, that's complete BS. Gluconeogenesis is something your body is smart enough to know how to do when it needs glucose and has nowhere else to get it from. It is not something you can't outscience your body. And I think this is one of the things, Victor was talking about, like the whole macro tracking. I get that question too about some of my recipes. Well, what are the macros? What's the fat? What's the protein? What's the carbs? What's the whatever? And I'm like, here's the deal. If you care enough about your macros that you have a reason you need to track them, then you need to have a kitchen scale. And when you make a recipe, you need to weigh everything you use, and you need to look at the brand, and you need to use something like Chronometer, and you need to input every single ingredient, because labels can be up to 20% off legally. They can be up to 20% off in either direction. So if you're thinking, oh, well, this can have as many as 100 grams of protein for a serving, I don't even know what that would be, but let's just say it did. It could be 120 or it could be 80. And so if you plan for 120 to be safe, and then it's actually on the other side at 80, like you're 40 grams off of what you think you're having. So it is wildly inaccurate to track macros to that level anyway. And that's okay. It's not that it's a bad thing to do, but there are specific circumstances where it's important to track them on every single little thing like that all day long. And then there's other situations where it's like, I don't really think it matters that much. Like, generally get about here or less with your carbohydrate intake, because that's the real big one that really kind of causes the problems. Eat more fat, eat less fat. Which way do you feel better? Eat more protein, eat less protein. Which way do you feel better? If you up your protein, do you need as much fat? If you up your fat, do you need as much protein? Play around with it. When you eat a certain way and you go, I've been doing that for a week and I feel really good. I raised my fat intake and now I'm eating that stick of butter a day just by chopping it up and putting it on my steak or my burger patties or whatever. Man, I feel really good. I'm sleeping really well. I'm waking up refreshed. I feel like my skin looks great. My hormones have settled out. Great. Eat the stick of butter. And if you go, I added that extra butter in there and now I'm getting like maybe a stick a day or maybe even not quite that much. And I don't know, it just kind of seems to mess with me. I'm having some bathroom issues now and like I'm not feeling as good as I was. Great. Cut the butter back. Like that is as complicated as this is for a majority of the people that are trying to do it. And this idea of we're going to get hyper fixated on protein's going to throw you into a blood sugar spike because you're overeating protein and therefore your body's going to create sugar. You can force your body to create sugar. Your body doesn't work that way. According to every doctor who knows how your body works, I don't understand the science because I didn't go to that level of biology in college. But every doctor that knows the science of that says that's not how the body works. You cannot force your body to go through gluconeogenesis by just eating more protein. If your body has extra protein, it's going to build cells or it's going to expel it. It's one of the two. If your body needs glucose and it does not have any, it is smart enough to know I can turn this protein into some glucose because I need it via gluconeogenesis. And so I see OG Granny just says, thanks, Chris. You are welcome. And I'm sorry for the confusion that you have experienced by hearing this elsewhere, but this is what I'm talking about, where we get this like hyperfixation. It's all about clicks. It's all about shock value. It's all about, we got to scare people. We got to make people panic. We got to get people whipped up into a frenzy because if we do, we get millions of views and everybody makes money and everybody wins, except for all of the people out there watching who don't have the right information. And so they hear this and think it's the truth. Those people lose. So that's why I care so much about doing this, because someone like OG Granny is sitting here saying, I'm confused about keto. I don't know if I should do this or not. I'm trying to get this all figured out. I heard if I overeat protein, I'm going to get a sugar spike because my body's going to turn extra protein into sugar. I'm assuming OG Granny is probably not a nutritionist or a doctor. So where do they turn for this information? Well, they go to the places that they can find information about this, which generally the first place we all hear about this is online. It's where we all get all of our information now. And you go online and you've got a Yahoo going, well, now make sure you count every single gram of protein you take, because, I heard somewhere if you have 10 extra grams of protein, that's as bad as eating a Twix bar. That's ridiculous. And there's no science to support that. And no doctor who knows anything about what they're talking about in this space is saying that. But because a doctor talks about gluconeogenesis, they think, oh, well, if gluconeogenesis is a thing, well, if you eat a bunch of protein and your body's turning protein into sugar, well, you must be able to force it into this. And so then they take that idea and they run with it. And it's like the game of telephone. It just gets worse and worse and worse. So, and I see Dustin pulled up this. I'm not sure that gluconeogenesis works for diabetics. So gluconeogenesis is a process that is separate from your pancreas's ability to create glucose. Diabetics don't have a problem with not enough glucose. They have a problem with too much glucose. So in a diabetic's body, it would be unlikely that you probably ever get to the point of gluconeogenesis, but a diabetic's body still has the capability of doing it, because here's the deal: the pancreas and the liver and all of that stuff that's going on with your blood sugar control in your body, if those things no longer work, if the pancreas stops working, you're a type 1 diabetic and you have to inject insulin for the rest of your life because it does not work. So if you're a type 1 diabetic, okay, that's its own thing. And there's specific guidelines that go along with that. But even type 1 diabetics do things like keto and carnivore very successfully in this community. If your liver, which is involved in this whole process of processing and getting all of this kind of stuff going on, if your liver stops working to the point where glucose is no longer present, you die. If your liver stops working, you die. You cannot live without your liver. So, and I see here diabetic glucose levels can go dangerously low. Diabetes glucose levels go too low when you're taking insulin. When you're taking insulin and you're taking medication, you are artificially lowering your glucose. That's not your body that's not capable of creating glucose. That is a doctor has given you a chemical that you're putting in your body that is artificially lowering your glucose levels, and your body can't keep up with it. So see, again, this is what I'm saying. And I don't think Will Ty is trying to be difficult here, but this is a fundamental misunderstanding of gluconeogenesis versus being a diabetic. And I'm not a diabetic and I'm not a doctor. I've had to do all the research by listening to people like Dr. Barry and Dr. Baker and Anthony Chafee and like all these guys. Like, I've learned how all this works by listening to these guys. My mom is a type 2 diabetic. I care about knowing how this is going to work because it affects my life personally, even though I'm not a diabetic. But understanding, okay, glucose going too low for a diabetic is because you've done something to artificially lower your glucose. If you're a diabetic, but you're taking no medication and you're not doing anything to artificially lower that glucose, your problem is you actually have hyperglycemia, too much of a glycemic load in your body. You have too much sugar in your body and your body can't process it out. So when you're talking about glucose levels in a diabetic body going too low, that's because of medication, and that's an external factor. It's completely separate from your body's ability to go through gluconeogenesis. So, but this is what I'm talking about. So someone says, oh, well, diabetes, the glucose levels go too low, and then I don't think that means that gluconeogenesis can work for a diabetic. And then someone else hears that, and then they go make a video about it. Like, if you're a diabetic, gluconeogenesis is impossible. And you see what I'm saying? Like, this starts to turn into all kinds of information that is coming from different sources. And then someone like OG Granny is saying, well, I heard that too much protein is going to turn into sugar. And it's like, okay, so all of these different pieces of information are coming from all these different sides. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the actual biology of the human body works, why we're doing this. And then people are in comment sections getting confused on a video where an influencer is saying, I eat 4 sticks of butter a day and I have boobs that look amazing and I have a really flat belly and I have whatever, right? You can see all of these crazy things that someone does for clicks. And it's like, There's your video with the information. And then underneath of it are all of these pieces of misinformation coming from 100 different sides. And now we find ourselves in the current situation in the keto and carnivore world where people are like, I don't know if I should do this or not. That's why I get questions. Can I eat a stick of butter a day? Should I eat a stick of butter a day? Do I have to eat a stick of butter a day? Like, that's where all of this is coming from. It is a stacking up, getting worse and worse and worse kind of issue that if we do not figure out how to address, which is why we do Keto Crusade, more and more and more people keep slipping through the cracks thinking we sound like we're crazy, because those people eat a stick of butter a day and they think meat is the same thing as eating sugar. And they're all talking about how they ate nothing but sardines and eggs for a month and they lost 125 pounds in 4 days. And I mean, like, this is the level that this stuff is starting to get to sometimes. And I don't think that's me saying something pessimistically. That's me talking about what's coming in my email inbox on a daily basis. So it's really important that we all understand the actual physiological fundamental things of what keto and carnivore are doing, and we actually find a very middle ground, common sense way to start with this, and then each of us can figure out all of the subtle details as we go and as we improve our lives and get healthier, because in the end, that's the ultimate goal. We just want everyone to get healthier, and that's what we're trying to do. And I have to say, Jennifer Lucas is correct. They're looking great. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, and you're right. And you know, there's the thing of the buttery, and then, you know, if you get a lot of views from a video, a lot of times you have to double down on it. So like, it may have been one video that, you know, I'm gonna eat like what I did today with the carnivore pizza, right? One time for a lot, but you know, if it gets 1 million views, then you got to double down. You got to do that again. So maybe that one person, maybe you kind of felt like that person you know, maybe they're going through a similar thing to you or whatever. You mesh with them on some level, but then you see this like, oh, well, yeah, there's another one. Yep, they're eating the butter again. Oh, they're eating, well, maybe this ain't for me. When there's a lot of different approaches to that don't include eating butter. I mean, you can do the same thing and get the same results a different way. Whether they actually eat butter all the time, I don't know. Maybe they do. Why? I mean, there's so many other good options out there. Why would you do that? That kind of blows my mind. But you know, it takes all kinds. But yeah, Chris, the thing about the doctors in this community that I think is just awesome is they know how to research. I mean, that's, you know, med school is a lot. It's kind of like, you know, I mean, I don't want to say what I did, you know, with personal training or holistic health is anything close to what a doctor has to go through. But we had a lot of physiology classes but, you know, they had all the physiology classes. And now what they're doing is figuring out the stuff they didn't learn in medical school, because they didn't learn about diet in medical school. And you know, like Dr. Berry talks about, like, well, he was treating people for years and years and years and giving them the wrong information. And, you know, nobody was getting better and he couldn't figure it out. So like, he went on the mission to figure out for himself what was missing. And a lot of these guys do. You know, Dr. Berg's actually a chiropractor, but that guy's done so much research on every topic. And I really like him. And I don't hear him mentioned really enough. But for a basic keto understanding, and especially, you know, if you need some sort of supplementation from different, you know, a lot of people say, well, you don't have to take any supplements on keto. And while that's technically true, a lot of times herbs, vitamins, and minerals will help support the keto diet and make your body work even better than it did before. So to kind of discount that, that's another one of those kind of factions like, well, if you can do keto, but you can't do keto and have vitamins at all. You know, like, that's another one of those things, because somebody's heard, well, you're going to get everything that you need out of red meat. Okay, well, you're not eating all red meat all the time. And there may be things that you need individually, because everybody's different, that somebody else may not need. And, you know, it's just another way of grouping that stuff into a little tiny category. And there's people in there, and, you know, usually they clash, you know, because well, they're over here doing this, and you're not supposed to do that, and that food's not keto, and you're not supposed to have recipes if you're a carnivore. It's just it's kind of all that. And so, these doctors have just gone to great lengths to learn, the things, and they've got the background in physiology, and they got the background in, how the body works to some extent. They just, but because of where the funding comes from for a lot of the medical schools, it's more about what are we going to prescribe for this condition and what it fixes. And then if it causes this side effect, you need to give them this. And then, so they spend more time, trying to figure out what drugs to give people and what drugs to give people to counteract the side effects of the drugs they gave people than actually trying to fix, the root cause of it. So these doctors that me, Chris, Dustin, that we all talk about, I mean, these guys have done the work outside of medical school, because I can assure you they didn't learn a bit of this in medical school. Dr. Chafee, Dr. Berry, Dr. Westman, Berg, Stan, I can't remember his last name. I think he was a chiropractor too, Ekberg. I mean, there's some great people in the community, and these guys, like I said, they deserve a lot of credit for doing the things that, taking their knowledge from medical school, combining it with research into what really works, and then bringing that out to the community. And you can pretty much go on YouTube, and if there's a certain condition you have, you can probably look it up, and one of those guys has got a video, that should help you. And of course, you got to experiment on yourself a little bit and make sure it's working. But it's like Chris said with the fat. Like, do you feel better if you eat a lot of fat, or do you feel better if you eat a lot of protein instead? You're always going to feel better eating lower carbs. So that's just a fact. That's just what happens, which is what all these doctors are telling you. But anyway, I just think we've all got a great future here. I think the community is growing, and I think a lot of the issues are probably going to dissolve as more information gets out there, and the public is more aware of ingredients, and good ingredients, bad ingredients. What your grandma ate was probably better than what you got in your freezer now. So I hope the awareness to this whole this food thing is going to help everybody. And as far as buying the highest quality ingredients you can, I mean, if you feel good supporting your local farmer, awesome. If you can't afford to support your local farmer, go and get the meat that's on sale that's getting marked down this morning because it's about to expire. Stick it in the freezer and use it later, or use it today. There's no shame. I do that all the time. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. In fact, I showed on the video, like, well, hey, this one was 30% off today. It's about to expire, so I got this killer deal on it. Find the deals. Do that kind of stuff. Make friends with your local butchers at your grocery store. I mean, that's what I did. I know exactly what day they're marking down all the meats, what time of day for 3 of the stores that I go to. So they can be your best friends, and they can help you do, whatever lifestyle it is that you choose to do a lot cheaper. But it's definitely not supposed to be an elitist type lifestyle where, you're never going to succeed unless you buy the most expensive of everything. And it doesn't work like that. Yeah. Like, Spam and hot dogs, Spam's expensive now. Hot dogs and eggs are expensive now. You can do keto on hot dogs. How about that? And it'll work for you, because it's the best, probably not, but anyway. All right. Dustin,
I wanted to touch on this question, this comment that we had here earlier on from Lisa Taylor. She was saying that lost 10 pounds a month the first month I did keto, which is a normal type of loss. If you're going from a high carb to a low carb kind of diet, you're going to lose a lot of water weight in the beginning. So 10 pounds in the first month is absolutely normal. I did keto, no real change since then. So all these other diets are now jumping up, and no, they may not be. Let's see, and no, they may not be what is right for me. So I'm not sure if we're questioning whether keto is right for you, or just with the carnivore, the keto. I mean, it was basically everything that we talk about here is going to be under like the proper human diet umbrella. So keto, carnivore, lion diet, anything just basically low carb is all gonna kind of fit under that. Where so I kind of wonder too here with just 1 month and then going into it, you're not going to see a change. My wife, when we started together, we started this lifestyle together. I started to lose about 10 pounds a month and did for many months in a row. She didn't lose a single pound for 6 months. She had a lot of hormonal balancing that had to kind of get right. There was a lot of things in her body that it needed to be right. And there was some moments it was touch and go. We weren't even sure if she was going to be able to stay with the lifestyle or not. And I mean, realistically, everybody is a little bit different, and we understand that that women, there's a little bit of differences between men and women, physiology, with physiology and hormonally and all that stuff, and their diets are going to change a little bit, during the month. And I mean, there's other people you can reach out to kind of get more information on that, like Amanda Decker, Dr. Boz. There's a lot of people out there that are more qualified in that arena. But I kind of think if you're just kind of going in the first month, you're losing 10 pounds, it may be very normal for the first month, but that's not necessarily normal moving forward. And that doesn't mean that you failed. That doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. Doesn't mean anything is wrong with your body. But there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things that go into play here when you completely change your diet and eliminate, almost an entire macronutrient to be, realistically to begin with, to do the ketogenic lifestyle. Because like Chris said, in my life before going keto, I was probably having some days 1,000 carbohydrates in a day. And that's not even an exaggeration. That was, eating a sleeve of crackers on my way to work, stopping in a McDonald's and getting 3 or 4 of the the little dollar muffin sausage sandwiches, and then having whatever else, hash browns, and then going out to lunch at work, and then coming home and have pizza and ice cream, and just not eating just some pizza, eating the pizza, and then eating just a gigantic bowl of ice cream or whatever every single day. So that complete overhaul of lifestyle is going to throw your body for a loop. And I mean, it's completely normal. Like I said, the first month, it's very normal to lose about 10 pounds because your body's just like letting go of a lot of liquid it's holding on to. There's a lot of things your body just goes, okay, whoop. And then what happens after that is a whole lot of patience. And I don't know if the other guys want to talk about this as well, but I just want to touch on that because I kind of feel it is so easy to get flustered. It is so easy to get discouraged early on if you don't have the reassurance that it may not happen right away. It may happen for some, and I know that a lot of women I hear do get frustrated because their partners will lose weight very quickly and they don't. I know that was a thing with my wife. Going into this, she was 6 full months. She was just dealing with just the most ridiculous suffering doing this. I'm surprised she stuck with it. And I mean, she did it for me. And so I'm forever grateful to her for that too. But I just want to make sure that we are not downplaying the fact that you may lose something the first month and you may not lose anything for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at least let me say a few various things here. And again, I'm not a doctor, so I am telling you from just my own experience, kind of, what my observations are, my wife, and kind of what we've been going through all of this. So you're asking what sounds like a very simple question, or you're making what sounds like a very simple statement about an excessively complex issue. Okay. So this is not a criticism of you, Lisa. This is, let me try to help you and let me give you some encouragement. So I want you to hear what I'm saying as encouraging you that you're not doing anything wrong. First of all, I don't know how old you are, but your age is going to affect the way your metabolism and your body works. So there's a bunch of different things. I'm assuming, since your name is Lisa, that you're a woman. If you're not, I apologize for that. But let's just go with the idea that maybe you are, because there's other women out there who would relate to it, even if you're not. If you're a woman, you have a completely different set of hormones than men. Your body works in a completely different way. Men have a 24-hour cycle of their hormones, and it resets itself every 15 minutes. We're basically the same all the time hormonally. That's why a guy can sit down and just do the same thing over and over and over again. And you go, hey, what are you thinking about? And he goes, nothing. Okay. That's guys. That's what we are. That's what our bodies do hormonally. And it's not fair, ladies. I'm so sorry. It is not fair. But a guy can shed like 25 pounds like that. Like it's just our bodies are meant to do that. Women's bodies don't do that nearly as easily, because you have to realize women carry children, and your body suddenly losing 25 pounds 150 years ago would have been most likely a death sentence for you. So your body is designed to protect itself against that, because it's your job to carry children for the species. We can't do that. Our bodies are not created to be as magical as a female body. Our bodies can't begin to do what female bodies can do, right? Guys have kind of like one function in life, maybe a couple. We just kind of do our thing, and that's the way our bodies are made. Women, they have a whole other thing. They are on a 28-day, roughly, cycle. Week 1 is different than week 2, which is different than week 3, which is different than week 4. And your body does different things in all 4 of those weeks. Now, I'm not a woman, so I can't tell you any of this from experience. I can tell you this by sitting back as a guy, humbling myself to say, I don't know what I'm talking about, and shutting my mouth and listening to my wife tell me what her body is going through as she does keto and kind of leaning towards carnivore. So all of this is stuff I have learned because of what she's going through and how she's researching. So Dr. Mindy Peltz would be a great resource for you. Dr. Elizabeth Bright would be another great resource for you. Sally Norton might even be a good resource for you. Those would be places you can go. You can also talk to Nisha, Dr. Barry's wife, Nisha. She's a registered nurse, and she's a consultant for like lactation and a bunch of other things that she does, like health coach, all this kind of stuff. You can go to Dr. Barry's private group, and you can work directly with Nisha and some of the other female coaches, and they can really help you. There are people out there, but you need to get things specifically tailored to a female and the way your hormones work. And you need to understand for wherever you are in life, if you're 19, if you're 35, if you're 55, if you're 75, your body works a little different at each stage. Okay, so you're 70. After lung surgery, 270, went in a hospital, keto's where I look for healthy weight loss. Great. So at 70, your body works a certain way as a female. Also, if you went on keto after lung surgery, your body has a lot of things to do that does not have anything to do with that scale. And this is something that I think everyone in the chat needs to understand. Everyone watching needs to understand. I know we all want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. I have extra weight to lose. I still have extra weight to lose. I know Dustin and I have talked about this. We've got extra weight to lose. Victor's over there looking hot. We got him on here because he's the pretty face, and he makes us all look good. But Dustin and I have talked about this. We got a bunch of extra weight to lose still, and we're trying to do it. But what that scale says at the end of the day means absolutely nothing unless everything else is also in check. And your body is smart enough to know if the scale is the most important thing, or if all of these other things you're going through are the most important things. So if you went through lung surgery after COPD, you've had surgery, you have the issues of COPD itself, you have a whole bunch of underlying probably metabolic issues. If you're at 270 pounds, I mean, you'd have to be like 7 feet tall for that to not be a fairly significant amount of weight to lose. Weight is a symptom of a lot of other metabolic issues. So your body is going to have a lot of stuff it needs to do before it just goes, okay, let's get rid of the extra fat cells. And it will eventually do that when it's ready. But there is so much more that goes into this than stepping on the scale and then disappointing yourself that you don't see the number going down. This is the other thing. Weigh once a month, if that. If you're weighing more than that and you're focusing on that number, you're missing all of the other more important benefits you're seeing on a daily basis. Do I feel better? Do I believe this is better for my body? Am I reducing things like glycation of my cells? Am I reducing my chance of diabetes? Am I helping to heal my body by getting extra protein? Am I soothing my brain by getting fat? Is my brain running better because of ketones? Do I sleep better? Do I have more energy? I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on with all of these different things. The other thing you need to do is make sure you're taking your measurements, because those are a much more accurate representation of your body's health than what the number on the scale is. So if you're taking your measurements, and there's all kinds of information online about the proper way to do it, if you're taking your measurements and they're staying the same and or going down at 70 years old, that's a miracle, because doctors will tell you, oh, by the time you're like, 50, 55, 60 years old, you just expect to gain a few pounds every year for the rest of your life. And then, eventually someday you croak. I mean, that's the attitude. So if you're not gaining weight month to month, that's fantastic. If you're 270 pounds, when's the last time you felt like you were able to eat so many great things and not gain weight? That's a really important question to ask yourself. So you have hormone issues, you have the surgery, you have all healing, you have all these different kinds of things that are really important things to focus on, and you will get inside your own head and ruin your ability to be successful if the only thing you think about is the number on that scale. And that's hard, I know, and this is not criticism. I feel for you because I've been there. I know what that's like, and you just want to see that number go down, and it just doesn't. But you have to focus on the things that are good for your body and not the vanity metric of this is the number I want to see, and if I don't see it, I'm failing. Because that is an outlook that is put on you by other people's insecurity. It's not yours. That's somebody else that puts that idea on you of, well, if you don't measure this amount of gravitational pull, then you're not as valuable. That's a bad thing. Well, I mean, okay, yeah, it's a symptom maybe of some issues, but it is in and of itself not the issue. So we deal with the underlying issue. We're not medicating ourselves with pharmaceuticals to make the symptoms go away. We're trying to treat underlying issues. We're not medicating our self-confidence by trying to make a number something that it's supposed to be. We're treating the underlying cause that led to that number being something too high in the first place. So that's what keto does, and that's what carnivore does. Now, if you're doing all this and you're like, okay, I'm still not getting the results I want, I still don't feel good, I'm still struggling, and all of this kind of stuff, that is a major point of then you saying, okay, am I feeling good? If I'm not feeling good, I need to start tweaking what I'm doing. Maybe you're still getting too many carbs. Maybe there are carbs creeping in you don't know about. Maybe there's still seed oils in your diet. Maybe, we would have to sit and have like a whole session of us talking about just your specific daily diet to try to really dig into the ironing out the details of that. But there are so many reasons why you may not be losing as fast as you want to. And I see you just put in a message here, says that you're 235 pounds now and been there since last November. Have been discouraged, no change for 4 months. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about Kelly Hogan. If you guys don't subscribe to Kelly Hogan and watch Kelly Hogan, you should. Is a zero carb, My Zero Carb Life, I think that is her channel. Kelly Hogan is amazing for encouraging, especially women. She was doing carnivore, and she stalled and did not lose weight for over a year. And she said, my body must be healing because I'm doing the right thing. I'm just going to keep doing it. And she didn't change. She didn't panic about anything. She didn't worry about anything. She just kept doing what she was doing. Maybe add a little bit of exercise. Maybe try, if I feel like I'm hungry, eat a little more. And, very simple things. But she didn't change generally what she was doing. And then one day her body just goes, okay, I get what's going on. Cool. And she just started losing weight again. No explanation for it other than the fact that your body is smart enough to know when it's ready to lose weight and when there are other things it needs to focus on doing. And you have to trust your body. You have to trust the process. And you have to have, as Dustin said, vitamin P. And I saw someone ask, what is vitamin P? Vitamin P is patience. And I know that's not the answer you want to hear, because I didn't want to hear it the first time I heard this either. You don't want to hear that patience is the answer. but patience is the answer, and maybe a little bit of tweaking to try to reduce your carbs, to be a little more conscious of how many carbs might be sneaking in. Are you having keto products? Because this is the other thing. You say you're doing keto, but what does that mean? Because I've said people say I'm doing keto and they're eating keto ice cream, keto cookies, keto cake, keto pie, keto candies, keto bread, keto tortillas, keto sauces, keto this, keto that. And here's the deal. Victor and Dustin and I, all three at various times, have used products that say keto on the package. And generally, even though we've used them, all three of us say the exact same thing. That's kind of not really keto. Like, it might be good in a pinch, and it might be better than the standard whatever version that was out there. But if you're eating things that say keto on the package on a regular basis, you're probably not doing keto. And that's not because you're not trying. That's because if it has a package that has the word keto on it, then it's probably not keto, because keto things don't come in a package that says keto. They might be some occasional tools, but the real keto foods don't come in a package that says keto. So I don't know if you're doing keto products, but for anyone out there who is struggling, that might be the thing. And let's see. Have not made protein an issue, so I understand I need to add to my diet. Had to breathe and no exercise is important, but so hard to do right now. Follow Victor, so don't buy store keto. Excellent. Okay, so if you're not doing store keto, then start looking at, okay, how much, I mean, do you have berries? Do you have fruit? Do you have extra dairy? Like, everybody's body is different about this kind of stuff. And there can be 100 reasons your body is not losing weight. And half of those reasons you can't do anything about. So, you know, you can, again, this is why we're saying, like, you can tweak things, add in a little exercise if you can, add in a little bit of this, add in a little bit of that. You know, and you can do all, okay, live on cheese. So that right there might be the problem. And I hate to say, I love dairy. I could sit and drink heavy cream by the pint. I could eat cheese by the block every single day. I could do that all day. I love dairy. Dairy stalls my weight loss. It just does. And in fact, if I have dairy plus cortisol because I'm stressed out, and I'm eating multiple times a day because I'm stressed out and I'm eating my feelings, I gain weight. I can gain weight on carnivore by doing too much dairy and being too deep in that whole cortisol minefield that we all call life. So if you're living on cheese, most likely that's your issue. Now, I'm not saying don't ever have cheese. Start cutting back your dairy a little at a time, and start reducing that and start replacing that with beef, chicken, pork, bacon, like whatever it is that you like to do, any of those heavy fatty proteins. So you're still getting protein and you're still getting fat, but you're starting to shift away from dairy carbs and you're shifting into animal proteins, and then add the low carb veg as you wish, you know, if you're doing keto. And if you need some recipes to help you along the way, of course, I've got stuff on my channel, but you said you follow Victor. Victor's got a bunch of great recipes. We've got all the stuff to help you, but just start stepping back from that dairy, because if you're living on cheese, I know it tastes good and I used to do it, but if you're living on cheese, you're getting a lot more dairy carbs than you probably realize you're getting. Plus you have the casein proteins of dairy, which for a lot of people are inflammatory. And it just makes it really hard. Your body is going to stall out a lot of times. A lot of people see this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I can't tell you what's going on with your body. I'm just saying this is a common thing in the community where people are like, I'm not losing weight. And then they find out it was the dairy. I mean, it's a regular thing. It's happened to me. It's happened to thousands of other people. But see, this is what I'm saying. Like, you have to be able to think like, okay, what am I doing? Tweak little things like, you know, I'm getting a lot of cheese. I need to tweak my dairy intake. I need to start cutting back on that and try something else that gives you something to try. And so if you do that and you see no movement for like 3 months, like do it for 90 days. You don't see any movement. Okay, maybe that wasn't it. Maybe try something else. But patience, that vitamin P all along the way, and remembering that even if you're not losing weight, you're still doing something great for your body, because that cheese is a whole lot better than whatever the stuff was that made you end up being 270 pounds, right? I have to tell myself this all the time. Is that extra dairy in this recipe that I do, is that ideal for me? Yeah, maybe not when I choose to do those things, but it's a whole lot better than the stuff that made me the size that I was at almost 400 pounds. And it's like, I had chicken wings. We went out to a barbecue place last night and I got their smoked chicken wings. Unbelievable. There was a piece of celery on that plate and I ate that celery. I'm not a real carnivore. Everybody panic, right? I am not a real carnivore because I ate a piece of celery. And you know what? I didn't get fat eating celery. I did not get fat eating celery. I got fat eating Twinkies and cakes and pies and mashed potatoes and bread and pasta and rice and drinking soda and having slushies and eating fast food. That's what made me fat. So if every now and then I have a little piece of celery, I give myself a little grace for that because I had the piece of celery that came with my chicken wings. Patience, common sense, and just starting to tweak the little things like the extra cheese in your diet. That's how we all do this. And that's how we step by step improve ourselves. And we're all here to support you. Victor has amazing recipes. I like to think I have some amazing recipes too. Dustin has some awesome informational videos where he's showing you like the BS on the front and the back of packages and making this whole concept simple for people. That's why he's called Keto Simple, right? Because he makes things simple. And, you know, all three of us are fostering this community where you can come and have support. And if you need extra support, like I said, I've got that private group. Dustin and Victor are both in there. We support people there. There's all kinds of ways to get extra support, but you don't have to be beating yourself up. And don't say, I only lost 10 pounds. I went from 270 and now I'm only down to 235. Celebrate that. Celebrate the crap out of that. That's awesome. You're losing weight at 70 years old. How many 70-year-olds do you know that can lose 10 pounds? I know a bunch of 70-year-olds because of my parents and my grandparents and people in churches and stuff, and they just get bigger every year and all they do is struggle. They never lose weight. So, you know, keep things into perspective of just how successful you're really being. That's also going to take cortisol levels down. That's going to make it a lot easier for you too. So that was a whole lot more than you probably wanted, but I believe in you, Lisa, and you can totally do this. So set yourself up for success and let us support you and let us help you.
Yeah, and Lisa, that I mean, before all the context came in, I was going to say the same thing. Like, if you lost 10 pounds, that is awesome. You know, you don't lose weight to get healthy. This is a saying. I forgot who said it exactly, but you don't lose weight to get healthy. You get healthy so you can lose weight, because your body will prioritize exactly what it needs. And you know, if you just came out of surgery, I mean, your body's number one thing is to preserve itself. So all the stuff that happened in the surgery needs to heal. So that's got to be first. Then second, at 70, I mean, you got probably some metabolic things going on that need to fix themselves. There's probably all kind of things that your body's saying, okay, well, now we got rid of the carbs, so we don't have to worry about the body having to try to take out blood sugar all the time. Now we can focus on something else. And it's going to focus on the most important thing, which is self-preservation. And, you know, once those things start healing themselves, then, you know, if there's extra fat to lose, then that should start coming off. But I mean, a lot of people don't even lose. My wife didn't lose 10 pounds the first month on keto. Yeah, it took a while. There were some things that, you know, we had to get through before that started happening. A lot of people don't. So, I mean, 10 pounds is great, especially right after surgery. I mean, that's huge. But I think all three of us here in agreement. I saw Dustin nodding about this too. But yeah, from time to time, the cheese thing, like if you notice in my more recent recipes, we're on a thing where we're eating a little bit more protein right now and a little bit less. So like I still do cheese, but I use less of it. And somebody even talked about that, like, well, that's not a lot of cheese. Well, that's just the way we made it for this particular time. So that's the video you got. But yeah, cheese is a huge thing. I mean, that all the time. Because it's kind of one of the things like, oh man, okay, well, you can eat keto now, so you can do bacon, you can do sticks of butter, you can, you know, and you can do all the cheese you want. Well, not exactly. You know, you gotta figure out what's going to work for you. You may need to cut it down just a little bit, and then, you know, that may kick in something in you. Like you cut back the fat a little bit, up your protein a little. All of a sudden, things start happening. Like maybe you feel a little better. Maybe your pants are fitting a little looser. I wish people would just take their scales and break them. I mean, the scales don't mean anything, because your body, I mean, if you've lost muscle, I mean, the protein in your body might be working to rebuild muscle. And so you may gain weight on keto for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, bam, you know, your regeneration type things have happened, and then you start to lose weight a little bit after that. So there's just there's so many different processes that your body goes through, but it is going to prioritize the most important to it. So if it takes a little while, just hang in there, and you should definitely be able to notice in the way that you feel. You know, if the clothes don't start fitting loose for now, but you should start having some positive differences in your life that are noticeable. But again, congratulations on the 10 pounds. That is incredible, considering that you were in surgery too and still lost that. I mean, that's a win. Now let your body heal itself. Throw the scale out for right now, maybe a little bit less cheese, and just see what happens after, you know, even give it a couple weeks, and see, just even cutting it back a little bit, cut it in half if you can, and just see how you feel after 2 weeks. If there's not a huge difference, maybe that's not the answer. Maybe it's something else, but that's, that's why doctors call it practice. You're practicing on yourself. All right. You got to know yourself. You got to know what's going to work for you. And, you know, we're all here to help you. Dustin's got some great videos, some recipe videos on his channel too. I didn't even know he had recipe videos till the other day, and he mentioned something. I'm like, oh man, I want to try that. So all three of us have got good recipes that'll help you out. Just, you know, I'm trying to do more informational type stuff too myself. And so whatever we can do to help, we're here for you.
And here's another piece of information that I think is quite a topic to kind of end things down or wind things down a little bit here. Egomaniac 247 says the question for the panel: how important are those 20 grams of carbs? And there's a little caveat here that we'll talk about, i.e., is 0 carbs better, or is the health value of having those 20 grams? So my question is it 20 total carbs? Is it 20 net carbs? Because when I started doing keto in 2016, it was net carbs. Everything was net carbs, so 20 net carbs. But you can get into where you're doing 0 carb tortillas, 0 net carb tortillas. You can eat a whole package and there's like 16 in there, but then you're having like 200 total carbs. So I think you have to be very mindful of the carb count, whether it's total, net, how they impact your body, because I like to do, for myself personally, keep my carbs as low as I can on a normal basis. So if there is carb creep a day or two, or I have something where I have a couple of low carb tortillas or whatever, it's not the end of the world. And I don't think that there's necessarily any necessary carbs. Now, I know that we've talked about sometimes in different parts of, like some women during specific parts of the month and such, there may be a necessity for them to have some extra carbs or whatever that just helps them. And like I said, that's something that my wife and I talk about for herself and things, Sometimes she just wants some chocolate, So I think it just really depends on you, what your goals are. Are you looking at 20 net carbs, 20 total carbs? And are you doing a keto and you're having vegetables, broccoli, that kind of stuff? Because there's a rule of thought that, like the carbs in broccoli really aren't that big of a deal. Or, we're getting carbs in eggs. We're getting, there's probably around about almost about a half a carb per egg, really. Then there's carbs in cheese. There's carbs in heavy cream. I think I saw a little discussion in the chat earlier in this stream where they were saying, yeah, most heavy cream is rounded down to where it says 0 grams of carbs, but there's like 0.4, 0.5 grams of carbs per tablespoon. And I don't know about you, but when I put cream in my coffee, it is not a tablespoon. It's not 2 tablespoons. It's probably a quarter cup or better. So you have to really be mindful of that as well. So I'll let these gentlemen talk about, their feelings and their thoughts on that. I think it really just depends on what your goals are. Are you somebody who's in maintenance, if you will? Then 20 net carbs, 20 total carbs probably isn't that big of a deal for you.
So I've been very passionately preaching about things that were important to me tonight. So I'm going to keep my answer short and simple here. I don't think there's one answer to this question because everybody is different, and why the carbs may or may not affect them one way or another is different for every person. For me, because of the effect it has on my brain and my body and how I feel best, those 20 grams of carbs are a problem for me if I let them get out of control. So on a regular basis, I have to stay as close to zero as I can. I also notice that animal carbs do not affect me in the same way as plant carbs because of my own personal things. So dairy carbs, although they may stall my weight loss, they don't cause all of the other negative effects that other like plant carbs do. So like when I have a keto meal, I don't feel as good as when I do carnivore. And I do it occasionally, but generally I stick carnivore for that reason. And I try to stay close to zero carbs. For my wife, it depends on what week of the month it is. Some weeks she's almost carnivore and she's fasting. And then based on what's going on with her body hormonally as a woman who's going through that whole cycle thing, there are times that she adds in fruit. She adds in more veggies. She probably goes over 20 grams of carbs because her body, because of hormonally what it's doing, needs more glucose. And if she doesn't make her body create that glucose, but she eats a little bit more of that glucose, it takes the pressure off and her body doesn't need to do all of that extra work. The cortisol levels come down. And by doing that, she broke an 8-month weight stall by actually adding some carbs at the right time of her month in the cycle. She actually broke an 8-month weight stall. So I think those 20 grams of carbs, the answer to this question depends entirely on what they will or will not do to help you, why you do or don't want them, and it's just individual to each person's experience. That's my opinion anyway.
That's a great answer. And I really don't know where the 20 grams of carbs came from. I mean, I feel like it's a good net carb number to where if you were having to count carbs, I feel like that if you're eating like starchy vegetable or non-starchy vegetables, you're eating higher fiber whole foods and not foods from that say keto certified or whatever from the bread aisle. I feel like that would help just about anybody. That would be a good number to shoot for. Now, like Chris said, everybody's completely different. And I've got a video coming out about this soon. It's going to be the way I feel about it is if it comes from the outside of the store, then you're probably okay with net carbs to begin with until, again, you got to experiment with your body. But like if I'm sitting down, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. If it's a non-starchy vegetable, subtract the fiber out. If it's anything from the keto bread aisle, the keto cookie aisle, any of that kind of stuff, count total carbs. Because while I think the fiber game that they play, putting different soluble fibers into the foods to get the net carb count down so they can put zero carb on there. I think that works fine for some people. Like a lot of the fibers don't mess with my blood sugar. But again, I'm not type 2 diabetic. I'm not type 1 diabetic. And so the things that don't affect me could affect somebody else a great deal. I talked about my low carb macaroni. I took my grandmother's old 100-year-old recipe and I found it was the Great Low Carb Bread Company. And they're using like vital wheat gluten in there. That doesn't affect me, but somebody not even diabetic was like, oh, that spiked me right up because of the wheat sensitivity or the wheat allergy. So there's no across the board. 20 grams is not going to work for everybody. It may work for some people, it may not work at all. You may have to be less than that, depending on, if there are certain health conditions you're trying to reverse, you may want to go more towards a zero carb. If you're just trying to lose a little weight, you may be able to go higher than 20 grams. But initially just try to get the carbs as low as you can. And see how you're feeling, and then try to lower them a little more. But I think 20 grams is a number a lot of people throw out, but there's really no scientific basis for it that I've been able to find. I just think it's a number that if you were to tell somebody to do a certain number, if you had to give them a certain number, I think 20 is a good number to where you can account for the non-starchy vegetables, the fiber coming out, and then it'd work okay for most people. But it's really finding out if your ketosis is your goal, what number can you get down to, and just track everything for a little bit if that part's, really important to you. But yeah, I would say for me, the 20 is just a number.
Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, that was a good. I think we'll start winding this down. If there's not any last questions, just kind of looking through the chat here. I'm not seeing any real last questions. Just a couple of things. Let's see. Amy was saying something about Dr. Barry having a excellent video on net versus total carbs. He's always going to be a great resource to go look and see what he has to say on any and all of this stuff. I think just to kind of start closing this out, just to kind of reiterate what we were talking about this episode, just really making sure that we are working together. I mean, it doesn't really need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take me, Chris, Victor, you, Amy, Sherry, Evelyn, Jerry, all of you. I'm just looking at the chat right now. That's what I see. I'm not leaving anybody out on purpose, but anybody and everybody who shows up here, who is commenting and asking questions and moving the needle, we need all of you. And I think there's a lot of people doing good work out there. I know that there's people like Nick Norwitz and just a handful of people, a plethora of people, and a lot of people that are doing the good stuff. I know we were kind of talking about creators today and what we kind of think they may not be doing correctly. And that's no real shame against them. I mean, everybody's trying to bring awareness to this community, awareness to getting healthy in their own way. And I don't necessarily think that the people that are eating butter are doing anything necessarily wrong. They're not doing anything that's overwhelmingly harmful. I think it just can be perceived by some as silly and may not be taken seriously. And I think that's one thing that we need to consider when we're, even myself, when I'm making content, or even when I'm posting photos or memes. Am I taking the high road? I think a lot of us need to take the high road. And I think that's just one of the things that is very important with this community. This community means everything to me. And I'm truly, truly beyond blessed to be in this situation where I'm able to talk with you guys, hang out with these wonderful gentlemen. You guys show up and hang out with us every single Sunday we do this, or the Sundays that I do my lives, or go to Chris's lives and Victor's lives and, watch our content and share our content and subscribe and do all the wonderful things you do to support us. And I can't thank each and every one of you enough.
I totally agree. I am very blessed to call these two friends and brothers, and we really enjoy getting to do this because all three of us come from a place where we had our struggles and our various things we were trying to get under control, and we still have our things we're trying to get under control. I mean, none of us is perfectly where we want to be, and I don't think honestly you ever get to where you want to be. I think you just keep working to be better than you were the day before, and that's what we're here to do, is just encourage all of you, and wherever you are, just be a little bit better tomorrow, and all of us doing this together. That's why us kind of building this whole thing together, hopefully not sounding crazy while we do it, so we can reach and help as many people as possible. That's our goal. That's what we want. And I'm very blessed that this is actually now my full-time gig. Like I do YouTube with the recipe creation stuff, and Ash and I are musicians, and we tour and we play music, and we do YouTube, and we do carnivore keto stuff, and I get to do these kinds of things, and it's extremely fulfilling because I'm certainly not a wealthy man in the process, but I love the fact that this is what I do. because we get the emails of people that we help, and we get to talk to the people that it makes a difference for them. And nothing could be better than getting to focus on helping as many of you guys as we can, and just being a place where a support network can all kind of come around and congregate, and we can all support each other, because all three of us on screen need support just as much as all of you do in all of our various ways. And it's truly an honor and a privilege and a blessing for all three of us to get to do these things and to work together for you guys. And we just want to create the best community online that can reach as many people in the world as possible, because there are so many people that need help. And I know what it has done for me, just mentally and also just with my physical health, to have these two guys in a group chat that I can just say ridiculous things and text back and forth and just have support. And, you know, we have some goofy conversations. We have some deep conversations. We can lean on each other, and it means a lot. And I just appreciate them so much. And we want to extend that family brotherhood thing we have going on to as many people in this community as will come be involved and have it. That's just what we are trying to do. So we appreciate all of you guys being here and just giving us the chance to do this, and would love to know how more we can support you, and what things we could talk about, and how we could just do this in a way that's more beneficial and better. And it really means the absolute world to me to get to be a part of this with these two guys.
Yeah, man, that was a great point too. I want anything that we can do that would be beneficial, anything you want us to talk about, you know, y'all got my email. You know, you can put comments in here on our individual channels, whatever it is. Yeah, you know, if you guys have topics, things we need to talk about, things we need to discuss. And I know a lot of people don't like, because I get the emails, a lot of people don't like going in the comments. But if you have anything that you want us to talk about, email any of us. I know my email is always down in the descriptions of my videos. I know Chris has his. Pretty sure Dustin's got his down there. But yeah, you may not feel comfortable coming on and talking in this chat, but email us anything you want to talk about. You know, I'll bring it up to these guys. If you email me, I'll bring it up to these guys, and we'll make sure we address it. Because I know a lot of times it is hard to kind of come in here and tell your whole life story out in the comment section. So, and that's the reason. I mean, I had a heartbreaking email on the person, just, you know, they wanted to be anonymous. And so I won't get into it, but basically the email was about starting keto. And I mean, it was just, it was so terrible that there's, like we were talking about tonight, so many splintered factions of things that they had no idea where to start. You know, like Chris said, do I need to eat butter? Do I need to do this? And so that's when I realized, and even though I'm not gonna get as many views on those videos as I do like on a recipe video, I feel like it's important for me to do it just so you know where I stand, what I would recommend to you. And you know, it really is, it's hard, but it's so easy at the same time. But you need some form of correct information, and not, you know, 85 different things coming at you all at once. And you got to figure out, well, should I take these 5 supplements? Should I do this? Should I not take anything? Should I do, you know, there's so much out there. But listen, I mean, our community is awesome. You guys are awesome. You always show up for us, you know, in these Keto Crusades and our individual channels. So I really appreciate you guys so much. And, you know, hopefully we can help you, and, you know, whatever you need, you know, for me, at least I'm here. These guys are here. So, you know, we'll be glad to do whatever we can to help you out, or advise you who to listen to, who's legit, I probably won't say who's not legit. I was just, you know, I'll move away from that question. But anyway, thank y'all so much for being here and supporting us. And hopefully we have provided some good, valuable stuff for you tonight.
As always, ChrisCookInNashville.com for Chris. I'm at KetoSimple.shop. I'm sure Victor has his own website. I know you can find in the description of his videos. reach out to us. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. You can reach out to me in any number of ways. The same thing with Chris. He's got his Mighty Networks. Victor and I are both over there as well. So reach out to us, ask us those questions. Let us know if you want to be anonymous, all that fun stuff. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight. And I've really enjoyed this evening. And thank you all again so very much for being here.
Thank you, guys.